Oh, your hands. There you go.
You're
And I've got my horn hair going. Look at this. Oh my
You're alive on
God.
Instagram.
Am I? I need to look in the mirror before I go live. I'm Mel Robbins. This is Coffee Talk. This is my live weekday broadcast. Let me take a sip of my coffee, where I bring you behind the scenes and I share with you stories, information, advice, answer your questions to empower you to go about your day in a way that makes it a little bit better. And today, hold on, I'm distracted by this shot. Hold on. Because I don't like. Ooh. Okay. Here we go. It's always like this with Mel. Nothing is ever perfect because that's how life is. Okay, let me go down a little lower. There we go. I feel a little bit better with a shot that looks like this. Awesome. All right, and you're good? All right, so thank you for your patience while I got myself all situated. Today is Friday, April 26th, and we're covering a topic that I get a lot of questions about, and it is about toxic coworkers and how you should not let a toxic coworker ruin your job, ruin your day, ruin your meeting, and we're going to talk about the 3 research-backed things that you need to do if you're dealing with a toxic coworker that is making you not enjoy your job or not enjoy being around them, whatever it is. Toxic coworkers are a major problem. They're a major problem for team productivity. They destroy culture. They impact how much gets done. They certainly probably impact your enjoyment at work. And there are things that you can do based on the research in order to address and deal with a toxic coworker, and also to define the boundaries that you need to have so that you're not impacted by them. So we got this question, and so we're going to spin off this question, but the advice goes for any time you're dealing with somebody at work who's toxic, okay? Because one of the nice things about being at work is that if the person is toxic, oftentimes you've got more structure around the relationship because you have a boss, because you have HR, because you have team dynamics to help you coach, nudge, and I guess inspire in some ways or inform this person that the behavior really isn't working for the team or for you. And I'm going to give you the 3 pieces of research and advice that come from Harvard Business School and some researchers there that will really work. So here's a question from Natasha. I absolutely love my job, but my company recently hired a new employee from my department who is awful. Awful. And Natasha even wrote in all caps that she's awful. She doesn't take responsibility for any of her mistakes. She takes her anger out on her coworkers and doesn't seem to have respect for anyone in the company. She is unbearable to work with. So, Natasha, if you've got somebody that's taking her anger out on coworkers and she has no respect for people, that would be unbearable, and I'm glad you're writing this. And so I want to draw a line in the sand. So first of all, there are certain behaviors that go way beyond being toxic. Sexual harassment, harassment of any kind, stealing, immoral behavior. Those are things that not only you shouldn't deal with, but HR needs to know about them. And so if that's what's going on with a coworker, you need to get your boss and you need to get HR involved because that's a whole different level than just toxicity. Toxicity is referring to what Natasha's talking about, which is the behavior patterns in people that create a negative space for everybody else. And those can include gossiping. If you've got a coworker that's constantly fluttering by your office and wants to gossip about what's going on at work, that's a toxic person. If you got somebody that backstabs people, if you've got somebody that interrupts and dominates the corporate culture or meetings, that can become a toxic situation for culture. If you've got somebody that's constantly raising their hand or agreeing to do things, but guess what? They never follow through. Yours truly? I used to be that kind of person. I used to be the yes woman. And then I just wouldn't do anything. Like, honestly, I was literally the world's worst employee at a number of my jobs. I was the toxic person. I was also miserable, which is why I was doing that. And that's a very important point. A lot of people that act out at work are miserable. And so I think one of the things, before I tell you the three things, oh no, there we are. We just lost our signal. Oh no. Tracy, are we okay? I want to make sure that we still have our friends on Instagram or on Facebook and YouTube. Are we still okay?
Nothing from her yet. I'll let you know.
You might want to call her. So,
No, she's texting. Okay.
We're okay?
We're good.
Okay, it said lost signal. Okay, great. So I also want to put that into the mix of the three things I'm about to share with you in terms of the advice, because I think it's really important for your personal boundaries to use what I always talk about, which is empathy. Understand that anybody that's acting out, it doesn't excuse the behavior, it explains it. And it also allows you to separate yourself emotionally. That person is likely miserable. That person has a bad life, which is why they treat people badly. And so if you can start to really use empathy to put it on them versus making it that they are doing something to you, that can help you from getting hooked emotionally. However, even when you distance yourself, you still have to do something about it. And so here's what you're going to do. According to Harvard Business Review, the single most important factor in the success of a team, the success of a culture, is the quality of the relationships between colleagues at work, between the people on a team. And Natasha, you know this because you're experiencing somebody who's toxic. She takes her anger out on you. She doesn't take responsibility for her mistakes. She's disrespectful to people. And of course, this is going to create a horrible environment to work in. So here are three things that you can do immediately in order to fix this situation. Number one, and you're gonna hate this. Number one, you have to talk to them. Hinting is not allowed, and here's why. Based on the research, the majority of people lack self-awareness at work. You get that? The person who's disrespecting you likely doesn't even know what they're doing. The person who's taking his or her anger out on you likely doesn't know how it's impacting you. You see, when people do this, when they have these kind of toxic patterns, they've been getting away with them for so long because nobody has had the courage to cross-check them verbally on it. And that's where you come in. Lucky you. You're in their life because your purpose in their life is to be the one person that has the courage to actually sit down and have a candid conversation about it. So what are you going to do? How do you have that candid conversation? First of all, try not to make them wrong. Try not to come in and shame them and tell them all the horrible things they're doing, because you'll immediately create a situation where they're defensive. And if the research bears out from Harvard Business School and they actually had no idea that they were doing it, they might get defensive. The better way to do it, the more effective way to do it, is to explain how their behavior impacts you. And when you do that, most people are mortified because most people are venting or are disrespectful and they're not even thinking about the impact it has because nobody's ever told them. And the other thing that's really important when you have this conversation is come up with specific examples. So if you've got this toxic coworker, Natasha, for the next couple days, write down very specific examples of exactly what happened, exactly what this toxic coworker did, and exactly how it made you feel. And the reason why you want to do specific actions is because most of us are so unaware that just generally saying you're very disrespectful and it makes me feel demoralized. It makes me not want to come into work. It makes me not want to be your colleague. It makes me not want to volunteer to help you. Most of us just feel like horrible when something like that is told to us, but we don't really know how to check the behavior. But if you say, oh, well, we were in a meeting and I shared an idea and you said, well, that's really not going to work. I think it's a waste of our time to do that. Kind of stupid. When you demean my ideas publicly, it makes me not want to speak. You're talking down to me. Whoa, if I hear it that way, wow. Now I know what we're talking about. And here's the other thing. You can actually give them some advice. So the next time we're in a meeting, if you disagree with something that I have to say, it's fine to disagree, but you don't have to make it personal. And that will give them the training that they need. And, that's the hardest thing to do. Have the conversation. The second thing. Oh, and here's one final thing when you ask the feedback. You might want to ask them if they have any feedback for you, because then it becomes more of a dialogue and they may have feedback for you. For all you know, you're behaving in a way that's triggering them to disrespect you. You don't know. And unless you have the candid conversation, which you're going to have to be brave and courageous to do, nothing's going to change. Okay, so candid conversation. Number 2, you got to raise your own game. Got to raise your own game. And so what is the game that you play at work? You got to get out of the head that it's all about you. The best team members are always thinking about how to make the team better. The best team members are loyal to the team. The best people to work with are the ones that are in it together. And so in order for you to get your toxic colleague to shift behavior, you got to model it. And here's the interesting thing about the research. When people are working with coworkers or on a team where people collaborate and where you have honest conversations, it creates what we call psychological safety, which basically just means I feel safe working with you. I know that if I come to you with feedback, you'll listen. I know that if I tell you how your behavior is impacting me, you'll actually care. I know that if you need help, you'll come to me, and I know if I need help, I can come to you. That's what psychological safety means. You're a safe person and hopefully a fun person to work with. So you've got to model that. That means you got to ask for support. That means you got to have direct conversations, and it means you got to support your team members too. And do you realize that when you work with other people that do this, team members are 35 times more likely to show visible commitment to your success. And they're 47% more likely when you model it to work hard to build and maintain your trust. So don't ever get resigned in thinking that the way that you behave won't impact how somebody else is behaving around you. Another thing that you absolutely have to do is you have to go and talk to your boss if the conversation continues. You have to. And the reason why is it takes just one person to ruin a culture. It takes just one person to ruin a team dynamic at work. If you allow toxic behavior to continue on, it will destroy the work for everybody that has to work with them. It literally is like a skunk. Toxic people at work are like a skunk. You don't have to see them to smell them. You don't have to be next to them to feel the impact of their stink. And so if you've had the conversation and you've also been modeling the behavior and nothing is changing, it's time to take it upstairs. It's time to go to your boss. And the reason why it's important to go to your boss, and what are you going to go to your boss with? You're going to have a candid conversation. In fact, you're going to have the exact same one with your boss that you had with your toxic, skunky coworker. And you're going to give the boss specific examples, and you're going to explain what you explained to your coworker, and then you're going to ask your boss to hold a team meeting. Not to indict anybody, but to basically draw very clear lines in the sand about what are the team norms that are acceptable and what is not acceptable. And here's what's interesting. When a manager or a boss defines norms, the team is 73 times more likely to work hard to keep them. And here's the kicker. They're 125 times more likely to address the situation if there's somebody on the team who is not operating within the norms. It's so obvious. I mean, think about it. If somebody were to walk in to work and put their feet up on the desk and turn on porn and be sitting at their desk watching porn, would that be the norm for your workplace? I don't think so, unless you're working for Playboy or you're working in the porn industry. That would be so out of the norm that everybody would address it immediately, period, full stop. And what I want you to understand is that when you take responsibility for how you're acting on the team, and you're collaborative, and you're supportive, and you're putting the team first, and you're modeling that behavior, and when you also bring the courage, and you dare, as Brene Brown says, to be brave enough to have honest conversations with your colleagues about what's acceptable and what's not based on how things are impacting you, you personally shift the culture in a positive direction. So it comes back to the core message that I always have for you. No matter what's happening around or to you, you hold the power, because you always have the power to have an honest conversation. You always have the power to discuss how things are impacting you. You always have the power to make requests. And you certainly have the power to draw boundaries. And you also have the power, by the way, if the culture gets worse and worse, or you just are tired of it because it's not changing, to go find a different job. The power is always in you. And I think that's something that's so important to constantly remind yourself. I get that I don't like where I am, but what could I do to change it? How can I change how I think about this? And I'm telling you right now, you know this. The second you start changing how you think about a situation, the situation changes. The second you start changing how you think about what your options are, you start to see them. The second you stop thinking that you're stuck or that you're a victim, and you start thinking about how you solve something, you start to see solutions. And so the answer is always in you. And now you know the 3 easy steps, thanks to the research at the great folks at Harvard Business School, to address effectively a toxic coworker. And you also know, I think, 2 very important things. Number 1, based on the research, the majority of us have no clue how we're showing up at work. We're not self-aware, which is why it's so important for you to have conversations. And the second thing is, the second norms get defined and people start acting within them in your team, the team shifts, and the productivity and the enjoyment and the collaboration will shift too. And you personally could be the change agent that makes it happen. So go do it. You got it? Good. All right, I got to go because I got to get on a train. And I am going to go to my grandmother's funeral. I cannot believe it. My grandmother's funeral. I think I knew that she was dying. I mean, she wasn't sick. But there was something in me the second I realized how long it had been since I had seen her that made it super urgent. And, you know, I think life is about signs. I really do. There are so many signs around you if you are awake and aware. And I know that I just felt that sign that I had to go see her. And thank God I did, because she was dead 2 weeks later. And so we're going to her funeral tomorrow. I'm going to see my brother and my sister-in-law and my dad and my mom and all my uncles and my cousins. I can't wait to see everybody. In case nobody else tells you today, was there one more thing?
The women in work.
Oh, I almost forgot. If you got something out of that content, I have a super important project that I need to tell you about. It's a video that I created for you about the 7 things that you need to do in order to raise your visibility at work. And I created this with women in mind, because men tend to do these 7 things just naturally. And for whatever reason, we women don't tend to do these 7 things. And these are the 7 things that you must be doing at work. They're so simple, and they raise your visibility, and they make your contributions known. And that is the only thing, based on the research, that actually correlates to you getting a raise and you getting promoted and you getting credit for the work that you're doing. And so you have to watch this coaching video that I made for you. And you can get it at melrobbins.com/womenandwork. That's melrobbins.com/womenandwork. This is essential content for you. Share it with your daughters. Share it with the people you mentor. Share it with your female colleagues. By God, watch it and then share it with every woman you know, because this is simple stuff that translates to dollars, baby, and promotions. And let me tell you, I know you're working hard, and I know you get frustrated because sometimes you feel like your contributions aren't being recognized. Your visibility and raising it is the key to getting what you deserve. Telling you now.
You have a lot of cool people with you today, but your friend Lewis House was checking in.
Lewis?
Yeah.
Shut up, Lewis. How are you, honey? I love Lewis House. Lewis House, School of Greatness, best podcast. I need more coffee. Lewis House, School of Greatness, best podcast on the planet. Make sure you subscribe. Don't just listen, subscribe to that podcast. Anyway, cheer for your friends like I just did for my friend Lewis Howes. Super important that you cheer for the people that you really respect and admire, and you cheer for the folks that are doing their best to get the job done. I also want to cheer for Kathy Sullivan, right? Kathy Sullivan, she lost her daughter in a terrible accident a couple years ago. She sent me all this really cool stuff as a thank you. And her daughter drowned to death after an evening of high school partying, and she has turned that unspeakable tragedy into the fuel to go out into the world and share her story and inspires others to be responsible about their kids and drinking, and to also make the most of every day, because you never know when something horrible might happen. Anyway, I think that's it. Kathy, thank you for taking the time to recognize me. Thank you for sending me something nice. Thank you for writing me a note. It means the world to me. I'm driven by the impact that I'm making. So when you all take the time to tell me that what I'm doing is making a difference for you, that just fills my heart. So I have to go, but there's two other things. I am still writing the newsletter that was supposed to go out yesterday. Yeah. I send out a personal letter every Thursday, and these last 3 weeks have been a doozy. So I'm behind schedule. I will be wrapping it up on the train. It's going out this afternoon. If you're not on our newsletter list, get on the newsletter list. I don't know what you're thinking about or waiting for. Just get on it, please. Go to melrobbins.com, and right on the homepage, boom. You'll not only get the newsletter sign up, but you'll also get prompted to sign up for the newsletter, because it's the fastest way to hear about how you can get free tickets to my new talk show that we're taping in New York, and how you can apply to be a guest on the show. So if you go to melrobbins.com TV/TV, melrobbins.com/TV, you can figure out how to apply to be a guest on the show. And I think that's it. In case nobody else tells you today, let me be the one to tell you this. I love you. I do. And I believe in you. I don't know what you're facing, whatever this is, but you got this, because you can change how you think about it, and that's going to help you spot some solutions. You can find the courage to ask for help. You can change the little things that you're doing, and that'll change everything. And my life is a testament to that. You got to push yourself every single day to wake up and be thankful that you woke up, and to do just a little bit better today so that you can have a better day than you did yesterday. Geez, that even rhymed. I'm like on fire today. I need to have lunch and get on a train and get to this funeral. I will see you on Monday. If you see me in New York, make sure you give me a hug and say hi on social media, okay? You can always ask a question. Do it in the comments. Use the hashtag AskMel. Put up a social media post. Hashtag AskMel and tag us. We'll find you and we'll feature you in an upcoming coffee talk. Bye.